Having narrowed your list down to the half a dozen or 7 key hats that you wear, then I want you to write out really just a bullet point description of each one of these, including the major responsibilities that you have under that hat. So, by way of an example, let's say we're looking through the window of HR, human resources. Put on your human resources cap. What are all the responsibilities? And these are just the bullet point responsibilities that fall within that hat. So, some examples of a bullet point would be things like hiring and succession planning and termination. Training, which includes induction. It might include department culture. If your organization uses performance appraisals, then that would be included in the HR hat. And of course, then there's rewards and recognition. And so all of those responsibilities are just bullet pointed. And that means what you're left with is a title of the hat concerned and some key responsibilities that fall within that title. And by the way, there's a worksheet in your tools and resources which can help facilitate your thinking around this. Let me caution you to not overdo this exercise. It's not about coming up with a whole job description here. It's just quick, to the point, bullet points, because these will be used as memory joggers when it comes to implementing our planning methodology. Now you'll notice on the worksheet, this is the worksheet that's included in your tools and resources section, it says set a SMART goal for each of your 6 or 7 hats. You don't have to do it. Some people like to do it. I actually prefer it if you do. And in fact, if I was working with you one-on-one, I would really be encouraging you to set a SMART goal for each one of your hats. It will help you when it comes to implementing the planning methodology, but it's optional. Main thing is understand each hat and all the different responsibilities that you have within that role. So once again, press pause and invest the time to review the various different hats that you wear and the responsibilities that are associated with each one of them. Okay, so now that you've done that, I want you to determine a time once every week that you can devote 90 uninterrupted minutes for planning. Maybe you already have weekly planning time, maybe you don't. If you do, use that. If you don't, I want you to go to your diary right now and lock in a time, 90 minutes every single week for planning. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this should preferably be the same time every week. So for me, it's a Sunday evening. For many of my coaching clients, they've selected first thing on a Monday morning or last thing on a Friday afternoon. Your choice, up to you. Just make sure that you can keep it consistent and that 90 minutes, and it will take 90 minutes if you do it properly. That 90 minutes is completely interruption free. No phones, no emails, no knock on the doors, no nothing. 90 minutes interruption free. It's a golden hour. Alright, so now what I want you to do, and as I mentioned earlier, I want you to lock that time and space into your diary for the next 90 days. Okay, so take a look at your diary the next 3 months, once a week, lock in that time, and I want you to do this now. It's fascinating to me that one of the main reasons why proper planning doesn't actually get done is not because of our intention to plan. It's more about the fact that we never actually plan to plan. When you actually lock planning time into your diary, that's when planning happens. So just to reiterate, it is so important that you plan to plan. Otherwise, we tend to leave planning to chance. So if you'll lock this time in for the next 3 months, and if you'll do the method that I'm going to put forward to you, and if you'll do them for the next 3 months,
You will be so sold on the benefits, you'll do them for the rest of your working life.
So pause the video right now and go ahead and plot in all your planning time. I'm about to give you a recipe, a process for what it is that you're going to do during each of these 90-minute golden planning sessions. The outcome of these planning sessions is that you will generate one seriously long to-do list, which will cover all your bases, making sure that you've left absolutely nothing to fall through the cracks in the up-and-coming week. However, before you get to do anything,
I want you to block out time where you intend to only work on the most productive thing. And we've discussed it over and over, so you know what the most productive thing is.
Block out the time in your diary right now in order to do that.
So press pause while you do this.
Okay, so now I want you to pull out that list of your 6 or 7 sales leadership hats that we developed earlier. And now
I want you to examine the responsibilities and objectives of each hat one at a time that you wear at work. So take each hat individually.
So as an example, let's put on our human resources hat again.
And I want you now to imagine that that hat was your sole job, your sole role and responsibility. And I want you to look through the glasses of only that particular hat. So if we're wearing the HR hat, just think HR.
Nothing else.
Hiring, firing,
Succession planning.
rewards, remuneration, training.
Just think through all the responsibilities of that hat. And then I want you to write down all
The activities that you will need to do over the next week.
that have to do with that hat and propelling it forward.
You might have some follow-up actions that you have to take from the previous week, but I want you to think ahead. So think forward.
For you to accomplish your sales goals, what sort of capability do you need to build in your sales team?
What can you do? What sort of training do you need to implement?
Maybe you are planning to
Get rid of one of your salespeople. What do you need to put in place in order to do that? What is your succession plan for that? These are things I want you to think about now. While you've only got your HR and training cap on, think of all the issues that relate to you and your team in that space. So we're only using one hat at this point. Just take one. Let's not worry about the others at this point. I just want you to get a feel for it. So take one hat, and if it is the HR hat or whichever hat you choose, that's fine. Take that hat, press pause now, and I want you to just brainstorm a list of all the activities that you think should be done for that hat in the next week.
You can begin this exercise by asking yourself, what would success look like? When it was finished, when this week was finished from an HR perspective or from whichever hat you are working on, when this week is finished, what would success look like?
Press pause and do this now.
All right. So imagine just for a moment that you've now done this with every single one of the hats that you wear,
You'll have a pretty extensive list.
where not a whole lot has actually fallen through the cracks. And therefore,
In order to make sure that we've left nothing off the list,
there are some additional things we need to take into account. And the first one is, I want you to
review your last week for any follow-up issues that are outstanding and still need to be done this week. So these are all the things that you have to follow up on. This is going through your previous to-do lists or wherever you keep your notes from last week and bringing that information, that material forward. Some of it you might already have on your list. If it's not on your list already, add it to your list.
So, having put all your follow-ups onto your list, the next group of activities that I want you to take into account are all those activities
That are coming up this week. So these are your meetings, appointments, etc. Whatever you've got coming up for this week. Is there anything in particular that is required in preparation for those meetings? Now, when you really get good at this,
You start to preview not just the appointments and activities for this coming week,
but you also look at next week and next fortnight, for the rest of the month. And when you really get good, you even start to look 1 and 2 months ahead.
All right, so having considered all the appointments and activities, the third area you want to take a look at are
All the people relationships within each particular hat that require attention.
So once again, as an example, putting on your human resource hat and the issue that you had with wanting to terminate and replace one of your salespeople, who are all the people that you need to discuss that issue with? Other people, relationships that possibly you want to consider.
Think about
Your own personal manager, your boss.
is anything you have to do for him or her. What about the team that you currently play on? This is not your sales team, this is maybe your management team. Is there anything you have to do, follow up on for that team? What about your direct reports? Anything that you have to do and follow up on? So this is your sales team and any sales support people or any other people that you have in your department.
It's often helpful to jot down the initials of all the individuals in your team when you do this, and that way you don't leave anybody out.
What about for your customers? Is there anything you've promised your customers that you have to follow up on, chase down, make happen?
What about your suppliers? Is there anyone there that you need to follow up with? You may be part of a project team. Is there anything in relation to that project that needs to be followed up on in preparation for your next project team meeting? And finally, let's think about the people over at your head office or support office. Is there anyone there that you need to follow up with? So this is taking into consideration all the people and relationships that you have at work and making sure that they're all covered.
Finally,
Let's think about you.
is there anything that you have to make sure that you put on your list to do for you?
So this includes any personal activities for your family life, for your social life, for your healthy life, for your spiritual life, for your career, etc.